and welcome to the Hawkey PuckCast. This is a fan-run podcast by the Chicago Blackhawks. And even though it has been All Star Week, so there haven't been any Hawks games in a bit, we still have some things we want to talk about here. My name is Tyler, and I'm joined as always by my three co-hosts, Wally.
The All Star game sucked.
Yes. Yeah. Nick.
I know the All Star game took place in Florida, and it's a retirement state. It made it feel like a retirement game.
Yeah, fair enough. And John.
The IceHogs are good again.
Yes, they are. And we'll get into the IceHogs in a little bit, but we have a great lineup of things we want to talk about. We also have Wally and myself are going to discuss our prospect pyramids later in the show, as well as the Rockford report. But first, let's talk about the All-Star game that happened. It was an absolute nightmare, and I want to start with a couple of things that I noticed over the course of the thing. So I didn't get to see the skills competition, but I did see the All-Star game. So I want to start with the game itself, because obviously the whole point of an All-Star festivity is that it's about the game itself. And that is the most lifeless, boring, nobody cares, especially the people who are broadcasting it, I've ever seen.
There were empty seats in the arena for a reason. The All-Star game is the boring part of All-Star Weekend. The players don't want to be there. Let's be honest. They don't. They would rather be on the beach and just relaxing when it's a bye week where it's the All-Star week. The All-Star game was the largest snooze fest to any type of professional sports game. Any All-Star game is going to be a snooze fest when it comes to play. You're not going to get any form of high-paced energy, and this is what you see on the ice each year during the All-Star game.
The only redeemable quality about the All-Star game this year was the Kachucks. Honestly, The only thing that was good about the All-Star game this year was Matthew and Brady playing together and doing well.
Yeah.
But I wrote down some notes over the course of the first game, which was the Pacifically Central game. I really stopped paying attention after that because it just didn't get much better. But so the first thing I noticed is the commentators didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't sound like they cared. They didn't even pretend to care. When someone scores, you shouldn't want them to be like, oh, I'm an unbiased neutral. No, you should be biased for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You should be a home commentator for literally everyone who scores, not a angry visitors commentator for everyone who scores.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad in the skills competitions too. Like, I thought the announcing and whatever they had, I guess you would call it ringside, but it wasn't really ringside. I thought that was pretty bad too.
Like, the amount of effort and preparation you're supposed to do as an announcer before those things is absolutely amazing and incredible and really difficult. And I don't know if people really quite understand what goes into the prep work for announcing a game. And it doesn't seem like that ever really happened for these things. Also, I want to mention, there was an offside review.
Yeah.
There was an offside review during the All-Star game. Are we serious?
And there was a penalty shot in the All-Star game as well.
That was cool. That was cool, but that actually brings me to my next point. Did we have all the best stars in the league on the ice at once?
No.
And there wasn't any opportunity for any of them to play on a power play.
Yeah.
Why can't, if we're not going to call penalties during an All-Star game because, okay, we're not going to have penalties during an All-Star game, maybe, just maybe, here's a thought, what if we structure into the schedule of the game power play time for each team, limitless power play time?
In my opinion, just get rid of the damn All-Star game from point blank. The game never plays well, and it's a garbage performance.
I mean, that is an option. There is the giving up option. I don't think it's completely out of the blue. I honestly think the NHL might just do it because it's very clear that this isn't really helping anyone.
No one
I don't
cares
think it's
about
helping
it.
anyone. Not a single person cares.
The only people who wanted stuff from it is the people who wanted the jerseys. I freaking got it because
And the jerseys were horrible because they clashed.
yeah, and you
They
could tell the
clashed.
players had a hard time even making passes to one another. They looked
And they probably
exactly
didn't care
alike.
either. They
There
probably
was
didn't care.
there was no, it was a light jersey against a light jersey. We are playing on a white surface. A bright white surface, and both of the jerseys are very light. And the style, extremely similar. So the colors are similar, the style is similar. How difficult really, when you're skating at 20 miles an hour, is it really that easy to tell the difference between a bright neon green and a very pure white?
Yeah.
It was a very pale neon green. It's Miami Vice. That thing, that color right there that Nick is wearing, because Nick is wearing the Seth Jones All-Star jersey. That thing, considering all the other elements of the jersey, is not that hard to mix up with white.
But Tyler, did you find yourself falling asleep while watching the game? I have to ask it.
Well, considering the fact that I woke up at 6:30 this morning to watch soccer, yes.
I fell asleep in the second portion of the game. I will admit it, because it was so boring.
Yeah, no, the game was bad. I honestly think that that if we're not going to scrap it, which I think is an option, there's only one other choice, and it's to go back to the 5-on-5 system, the All-Star draft system, the thing that we did before the NBA. We did it first.
Yes.
We did it first.
And then
the
you have
NHL gave up on it for no reason.
And then you have a player like Phil Kessel being the last pick in a draft again.
And that was fun because he got a car.
Yeah. Then Ovechkin wanted to be the last player.
He was begging to be the last player so he could have a new car. That was fantastic.
He
that
begged to be the last.
Great.
I know Ovechkin begged to be the last player so he can get the car to donate it to some kid. He didn't get last pick, but Honda still gave him a freaking car. To do
and then there was the year where during the draft, Phil Kessel was traded straight up for Tyler Seguin.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic because life imitating fiction imitating reality, I guess.
Yep.
But then a couple more things. There were barely any defensemen on the rosters. There was one defenseman on the Pacific roster and 3 on the Central rosters. So between the entire Western Conference, you had 4 goalies and 4 defensemen. Talk about balance!
There was also the fact the Central Division had the most defensemen in the All-Star game out of any division because a total of 6 defensemen made it to the All-Star game.
3.
Yeah.
3 defensemen on that division. Each of the other divisions had 1. We're supposed to play hockey? Oh, and don't even get me started. 3-on-3 is not hockey. We need to stop pretending that 3-on-3 is actually hockey. Okay,
it's a joke.
So much that can be created and set up during a hockey game that just cannot exist during 3-on-3 hockey. The strategy goes completely out the window. It's basically just like pond hockey.
Here's what I will say. The way the NHL tries to view the 3-on-3 All-Star format It's a disgrace to hockey.
There it is.
I feel
I
like you say that term
it's
at least
almost,
once.
I had
once.
to.
But
At this
what I'll
point,
say,
it needs.
what I'll say is that I wouldn't even call it a disgrace to hockey. It's just forgotten. It's an abandoned, lost puppy part of hockey.
I will say this. I'm okay with 3-on-3 in regular season play for overtime, but a full 60 minutes of play would be stupid. Exactly how they do this All-Star game, which that's the most newsworthy hockey I've ever watched.
Yeah. And I think that the whole thing with the divisions format is it's supposed to create some sort of like competition advantages or something, which I don't understand. And you know the reason I know that players still don't care? Did you see like any celebrating?
No.
Did anyone celebrate when they scored? Was anyone
No.
happy when they scored?
The last time I think I've seen a player celebrate while scoring in an All-Star game had to have been John Scott.
Oh yeah, John Scott. And John Scott was like one of the best stories, and they basically said, yeah, this is never happening again. All these people wanting to watch our All-Star games? Yeah, that can never happen again. The other thing I want to mention is in terms of the skills competition. Because I used to love the skills competition. It used to be the best part of the All-Star Weekend. But not even because the All-Star game itself was bad. I used to enjoy that too. Maybe I was younger. Maybe I just had less experience with All-Star games, so I was like, this is great. But I always thought the All-Star game, the skills competition was fantastic. And there's a couple things I noticed remembering back to previous skills competitions that didn't exist now. One, they used to have a collection of non-All-Star rookies who were at the All-Star game competing in the skills competition, even though they didn't play in the All-Star game.
The Young Star game.
The Young Stars. I vividly remember like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in there.
I vividly remembered Brent Seabrook playing in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple years earlier though. So, but there's no reason why the only people competing in the skills competition are all-stars.
Yeah.
We should be seeing the best of the best in those traits. If we want to showcase the NHL in the best scenario possible, how is it that for years, when it was Adino Char versus Shea Weber, okay? Are we really out of hardest shot competitors? Do we really have nobody else who can blast it over 103?
Martin Firk.
Martin Firk?
Why not? Why not? The hardest shot that we've had in an All-Star game in the last 5 years came from the NHL All Star game 3 years ago. Why is it that we can't have non-All-Stars who are just very good at one thing go to the All-Star game? Why can't we have some of the fastest skaters in the league? Or maybe some skating agility drills beyond just being a super speed guy. Some agility skating drills. Some other things that are involved. Some more creativity, some more ideas. Bring back goalie goals in the relay thing, for goodness sakes. That was so much fun. I don't know why they ever got rid of it.
They did something similar with it now, bringing back the goalie goals situation, even though the new Tindy tandem or whatever the hell they called it evolved a goalie having to shoot it the full length of the ice into almost like how the Blackhawks do the shoot the puck and the second intermission for fans that center ice shoots the puck down. They basically did that with the goalies last night.
So they like that small of a catchment area?
Yeah.
They don't get it. They don't get it.
NHL likes to shoot themselves in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes they'll shoot themselves. Sometimes they'll score a goal and it won't even count. Paging 2020 automated screens.
Oh my god! Don't get me started on those stupid screens.
Thank God those are gone. But even then,
but
we should have accurate shooters who are all-stars.
They botched that. They botched it, too. They changed the accurate shooter. It used to be the fastest time. You get one shot at it. And McDavid technically went 8 for 8 in the entire accurate shooter. Still loses it to Brock Nelson, who missed at least 10 shots.
Yeah, I didn't even see what happened, but I can already tell that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they changed the accurate shooter. When you're going 8 for 8 compared when it should be 4 for 4, and if you're going 4 for 4, you should be the automatic winner, right? No, they don't do that anymore.
No. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they just don't understand. They don't get it. And I don't really think that they just get it at all. Nothing. They were doing half and half overlay advertisements, trying to stick them in as much as possible in between goals, as if like anyone wanted those ever. Like, if you're going to throw it in, like, find a time when it actually would fit, but they were trying to cram them in there as if it would actually fit there.
Yeah.
Like, I think that half and half advertisements aren't bad, but, like, you got to use them properly.
Yeah. The one thing I would say that was pretty smart on the NHL, which is rare to say when it comes to the All-Star game, they actually use the respected goal songs for the players that play for their respected teams. Like when Steph Jones scored, you heard the Chelsea Dagger. But otherwise, the All-Star game sucked. And the skills competition was just the most cringeworthy thing in hockey and this season.
Yes, it was. And the NHL was using this perfect opportunity to talk about how fantastic their boards advertisements were.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't had the biggest issue with them. I understand completely why some people do. And I can't necessarily say that they're fantastic. I can't even say they're good. I just personally haven't had the biggest problem. I totally understand why many people do.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we are going to take a very quick little break. And when we come back, we are going to have our prospect pyramids that we are going to discuss for the Chicago Blackhawks. So stay tuned, and we will see y'all in a bit. All right, we are back, and it's time to get into our prospect pyramids, but we realized in the break something that we forgot to mention about the All-Star game. The Blackhawks had a player at the All-Star game, Seth Jones, and he actually did quite well.
A goal and 2 assists.
Yeah. Not bad for a defenseman who apparently didn't belong.
Granted, he's probably been one of our better players in the last month or so.
Ever since he was named an All-Star.
Yeah.
Since the announcement came that Seth Jones was an All-Star, he actually started playing like an All-Star. Before that, though, you can't really say that.
I mean, to be fair, he was also playing with Jack Johnson, then he got put with Jake McCabe, so
there's
also that.
McCabe should have been the All-Star.
Choo, Jake McCabe. Yeah, but with that, we are going to get into the Blackhawks prospect pyramids. And with that, I'm going to get into a little bit of discussion about what exactly a prospect pyramid is. So, prospect pyramids are just a different way to organize prospects for your team in the NHL. The originator of this was the one and only Steve Dangle. The king of team-biased commentary on YouTube. I think it's the best way to put it. Team-biased hockey commentary on YouTube. And his prospect pyramid evolved a little bit over the years, but essentially there are 6 tiers. and you just go through and rank players based on likelihood of making the NHL, likelihood of being a great player, ceiling, and like the certainty, the ceiling, all the different things that kind of mix together to decide just how good a prospect truly is. So with that, we are going to get into the prospect pyramid and start with Tier 1. And Tier 1 is a collection of franchise talents that your organization might have, genuinely superstar players who you expect to be fantastic in the NHL, some of the best future players in the league. And Wally, do you have anyone in this tier?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. We have some good players in the Blackhawks organization. We have a couple of really talented youngsters, but there aren't any players in this organization that quite reach the levels of like McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews, even a Marner,
Makar.
or guys like Bedard. And I think that if you look at it, next year it's very likely we will have someone in Tier 1 because I think that each of the top 4 in this upcoming class are Tier 1 prospects. That would be Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, and Mitchell. I think all of them are Tier 1s.
Okay.
So we might actually have a Tier 1 next year for the first time in like a long time. I think it'll be the first time since Patrick Kane, honestly.
Okay.
All right, moving into Tier 2, though. And how many players do you have in Tier 2, Wally?
I have 3.
And I have 3 as well, and I'm guessing that they are the same.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the obvious 3. We'll start with the first guy, who is the only defenseman in this tier, Kevin Korchinski. Yes, we'll start with Kevin Korchinski, but we will also get on to Frank Nazar and Lucas Reichel later. So, Wally, talk about Kevin Korchinski and how his season's going so far.
Yeah, so Korchinski currently leads all WHL defensemen in points per game with 1.44. He has 6 goals, 40 assists in 32 games. He's ahead of other top prospects in points per game, like Olin Zellweger and Denton Modichuk. And over the past 15 years in the WHL, there has not been a defenseman that has gone over 1.44 points per game. The closest one was Zellweger last year, actually, with 1.41. So Korchinski's kind of in uncharted territory right now. So just a little bit more about Korchinski's elite skater, makes plays, high-end puck skills. He's just really good. Really good.
Yeah. He's extremely talented. He's the best prospect that we have. We already gushed over him a lot during the preseason because he was so impressive there. We talked about him a lot during the World Juniors. He played well for Canada there, even though they didn't really give him any opportunities, like at all. But that is everything we have to say about Kevin Korchinski. Let's go on to the next guy, who is actually yet to play a game at any level so far this season, Frank Nazar.
So yeah, as Tyler said, he hasn't played all year due to a hip injury, which was revealed by Ben Pope. He's back skating with Michigan, which is good to see. He might see games this year, we don't know. And he's likely to return back to college, which I think is a good idea for his development. Much like Korchinski, he's a great skater. He competes very hard, high-end hockey sense, and he's a dual threat, so he's both a capable passer and shooter.
Yeah, and you saw with the first 3 picks the Blackhawks made this year, the trend where all of them are offensive threats, great skaters. Even though you pick 2 defensemen, Renzel, Korchinski, Nazar, all of them great skaters with high offensive threat. That's what the Hawks seem to want. They want to seem to hit on as much upside as possible with their top picks. And then they went for some more high floor guys with their later picks. And with that, we're going to get into the only guy in Tier 2 who wasn't drafted in 2022. AHL All Star Lucas Reichel. And I'm going to have Wally and John tag team on this one because John's able to help us out because he watches Lucas Reichel plenty.
I do. What is there to say that we haven't said about Lucas Reichel already? He is a great passer. He's a great shooter. I mean, we've already said everything there needs to be said on Lucas Reichel.
He's played in the NHL so far this season, 3 points.
He's played great in the NHL. Yep, he had a great 3-game stretch. He's playing okay right now in the AHL, but he's been good this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe some concerns about a recent cold streak or so in the AHL, but I think that now that we're reaching the AHL All Star Game, those concerns might be less so. I still think that in the end, we're going to get a very valuable first/second line winger out of Lucas Reichel. Maybe a quality guy who can play in the center or wing for Frank Mazur, and then Kevin Korchinski. I don't know. I have really high hopes for Korchinski. He's a guy
we all should, honestly.
He's a guy who I think honestly could be a number 1 defenseman when all things are said and done. I really do. I mean, sure. I mean, it's a very high bar, but I'm just so impressed by what I've seen from him every time he plays. Now, does anyone here have any objections to any of these guys being in Tier 2 or anyone not being in Tier 2?
Nope.
I will question you guys if there's not a certain person in Tier 3. But we can get to that soon.
All right. Tier 3, and we're going to start with the first guy for me in Tier 3. That's Isaac Phillips.
Okay, we're cool.
Isaac Phillips is, for me, the 4th best prospect the Chicago Blackhawks have.
Yeah,
and that's a really difficult thing to say for a guy who was a 4th-round pick only 2 years ago. 5th-round pick, actually. 5th-round pick only 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how fast he's kind of developed. Great
Absolutely.
pick by the Blackhawks. Great scouting there.
Alright.
Yeah, he split time between both the Blackhawks and the IceHogs this year, and I think he's looked great with both of them. He's a big 2-way defenseman. I think he probably projects as more of a defensive guy at the NHL level. Good skater, and he's very athletic too. And he's been great this year for Rockford, especially.
Second best AHL defenseman. Or tied for first, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's played really well. Again, the IceHogs were struggling for a little bit since Reichel and Phillips got sent back down. It seems like they're figuring it out a little bit, so we'll see how everyone feels after the AHL All Star Game, and everyone starts to kind of kick it back into high gear, heading into the final stretch of the season, AHL playoffs and everything. Pushing for those AHL playoffs. I feel confident that the IceHogs are going to make the playoffs, especially considering how expanded the playoffs are in the AHL.
AHL playoffs are weird.
To see how far they will go is the real question.
100%.
Next, we're going to move into the 2 goalies that the Chicago Blackhawks have. That's Arvid Soderblom and Drew Commesso. Now, Arvid Soderblom, to put it very simply, has been incredibly streaky at the AHL level this year and has had a very long cold streak that seems to be fixing itself soon.
It is 3 straight games where he's given up 2 goals or less, or actually he's only given up 2 goals in the last 3 games. And he's getting out of his cold streak. He's putting together some good games where he only allows 2 goals, and not all those goals were on him. So that's good to see. He talked about in an interview recently where he said he's feeling more confident, and it's just good to see.
Yeah, yes. Last 4 games, he has a record of 3-0-1, a .930 save percentage, and 2.09 goals against average. So he's been very good as of late.
Yeah, Camesso. He's been fairly consistent in terms of his numbers at the NCAA level for Boston University. However, considering that he didn't start the year that great, the fact that his save percentage is up to a 909 right now is actually quite impressive.
Yeah, he had a few rough games, especially I think he was against Michigan where he gave up like 6 or 7. Then he had to get
Boston College as well.
Yeah, Boston College. He gave up like 6 or 7 goals in those games. He's been kind of inconsistent this year. He's either been like really good or really bad. I don't have Camesso in tier 3 personally, but I can understand why you have him in tier 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the last cut for me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to display my next 3 for tier 3 because there are 9 players I have in tier 3. Next 3 guys for me: Ethan Del Mastro, then Ryan Green, and then Alex Vlasic. Do we have any objections here?
I would. I don't have an objection because I don't know as much about these guys as you do, but I did not expect Ryan Green to be up this high.
Ryan Green, for me, has had an absolutely fantastic season for Boston University. He's got 22 points in 24 games for them.
That's good.
And the thing with him that was the case when everything I was hearing about him last year was that the biggest concern for him was his motor more than anything. Like, when he had the puck, it was great. He just didn't do much. So to see the scoring rate as high as it is right now is fantastic. Guy almost made Team Canada as a D+1 college freshman. And he came really close to that roster. Unfortunately, he is a 2003 birthday, so he isn't eligible for next year's team. But we are going to talk about a prospect who I do think will be a contention for Team Canada in the next row. And we have a guy who just played for Team Canada, Ethan Del Mastro, as well.
Yeah, Del Mastro's been really good this year.
Yeah.
He's kind of been a go-to defenseman everywhere he's played this year. I think he played top pair for Canada at the under 20.
Yeah, he was top pair next to Zellweger.
Yeah, and I believe he's been the number 1 he was definitely the number 1 for Mississauga, and I'm pretty sure he's been the number 1 for Sarnia as well. He's 4th amongst OHL defensemen in points per game. He has 4 goals and 29 assists in 31 games.
Mm-hmm.
Very physical.
He's not seen as an offensive guy.
No. He's very physical, strong defenseman, competes hard, capable passer and skater. The offense probably doesn't project like amazingly at the pro level, but it's good to see that he's putting up points while being more of a physical defensive defenseman.
Mm-hmm. And then Alex Vlasic.
Okay, so it's good to see Alex Vlasic get some recognition. He's probably been, in my opinion, probably top 3 defenseman this year for us, just us alone. He's been great on the body, being physical in the corners where there's a lot of puck battles going on and board battles. He's stopping a lot of zone entries that for the opposing team, and he's been decent offensively, but I don't think he projects as an offensive guy at the NHL level. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think he's been pretty good defensively this year.
Yeah, I see him mostly. He's extremely tall. Obviously, he's like 6'6", but I see him primarily as a solid 2-way guy who can provide in both ends. Not really someone who's favoring either angle.
Okay, and I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. So with these guys, I think the thing that we notice is that the Blackhawks have a lot of really talented defensemen in their system. Less so when it comes to forwards. I mean, we've listed so far 2 forwards in tier 2 and then 1 in tier 3 with a couple more to come. We'll get to those guys later, but we've got already 4 very talented defensemen who are all on the cusp of the NHL if they're not there already.
Yeah.
All of them are left-handed as well, by the way.
Too many left hands.
Which we'll see where that goes, because obviously, good players are good players. And if you can learn to play the right side, you can learn to play the right side, and that's great. We also have Seth Jones on the right side, so that's one spot taken care of. But now we're going to move into actually a right shot defenseman. For me, this was the weirdest decision that could possibly be made. Sam Renzel is extremely weird because he was so young for his draft year that he hadn't even graduated high school yet. Is graduating high school this June, is playing in the USHL right now, and is extremely talented, is not playing. Is he dominating the USHL? No. But his ceiling is so ridiculously high with his skating and offensive threat.
How high? It was my question. Like, how high is his potential?
I would say that, I mean, it's extremely unlikely that he reaches a top pair defenseman level. But if we're talking about, like, the best he could be, then we're talking about that level.
Damn. Okay.
But there's a chance that he doesn't even make the NHL. That's like how raw he is.
Right.
Like,
and Tyler mentioned in one of his threads on Twitter that about Renzel and how often on he is kind of in the USHL.
Back checking from what I've noticed.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I saw when I created that thread. There was issues, and I ended up talking to some people that I know who had seen him before in previous years. It was not necessarily the fact that it was weak back checking. It was more just the fact that he hasn't really grown into the fact that he's 6'5". So it's almost like he doesn't have the legs underneath him to really power skate properly.
That's interesting.
And then I just wanted to touch on something statistically. Since he dominated the World Junior A Championship, which is basically, what is that, under 19, I think?
Yeah.
He put up 5 points in 6 games. He's recorded 5 goals and 9 assists in his last 15 games in the USHL, including a goal tonight.
And he did the heartbreaker.
Yeah. So he's up to 25 points in 34 games. And just some other notes. Great skater, good size. He's physical, good in transition, but I have him as very, very, very raw. But his potential is sky high, in my opinion.
Yes. And then I want to get to my next guy.
Sammy.
Oh my God. When I was talking about a guy who I think will be on Team Canada next year, this guy. Because I think he will be given an opportunity with how he's played this year. He'll be given a chance to make the Blackhawks next year. Do I think he really will? No. Do I think the Blackhawks want to have him in the NHL next year? No, and they want him to go back to the queue for another season. I think if he goes back, then he'll be able to be dominant once again. Obviously, the queue's not the best level of competition, if we're being completely honest. But he seems to be one of the players at that level that really does show a high level of compete and an actual style of offense, and there's an actual style of play that people view as projectable to the next level. He's extremely physical. He's extremely agitating. They played a game tonight where he had 2 goals and 3 assists. I mean, the QMJHL is ridiculous. He's got 49 points in 41 games this year, and that's like a double. That's like double his points per game of last season, which is huge because the thing that was said with him was that, like, high motor, high intensity, but the production was low. And that was one of the problems. The production isn't low anymore. So I really don't know where we're going from here, but what I'm seeing right now is nothing but positives.
Yeah.
I didn't have him in this tier item one below, but he was one of the last cuts that I made. But everything that you said, Tyler, was perfect. Described him perfectly. So
And I think you're crazy, but that's a different story.
Sammy just
You
reminds
keep
me a
your
lot
own.
of Andrew Shaw, but with a better scoring touch.
Ooh, Colton Dock. This okay.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, and
Okay.
this one was a tough one. The problem, obviously, the tough one for me. This is the end of tier 3 for me. I'm going to ask Wally after this how his tier 3 differs. But the reason why I have Colton Dock in here is because he has played extremely well at the WHL level. It's just the problem is that he's been injured a lot. I mean, he had the shoulder injury at the World Juniors. He had concussion problems earlier in the year. What is it with Docs and just getting broken?
Maybe it runs in the family.
It's just injury after injury after injury for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they both involve prospect camp concussions and thanks Minnesota Wild prospect goons for both of them, by the way.
The Wild prospects are a bunch of goons.
Yeah. And injuries in the World Juniors that shouldn't have been injuries because they both happened from collisions that should not lead to the types of long-term injuries that those players got.
They're just unlucky at this point.
It's
What
so
to call
unlucky.
it is. They're just unlucky.
But he's played well so far in the WHL this year, 17 points in 14 games. He played well last year as well. He got traded to the Seattle Thunderbirds, where the expectation is that once he comes back, he'll be playing on one of the best teams in the WHL. That team's got Kevin Korchinski, Nolan Allen, Brad Lambert. The list goes on. He had a fantastic season last year in the WHL, which was really when people went from saying, I'm not sure about this guy, to, okay, nah, this guy actually is legit, so we're cool with this. All right. And Wally, I want to ask you, what do you have in terms of changes for Tier 3?
So I also have Colton Dock in Tier 3. The two changes are I have Wyatt Kaiser and Gavin Hayes in my Tier 3 instead of Drew Comesso and Samuel Savoie.
Kevin Hayes. Okay.
Okay, so with those, I'm actually going to head over to my Tier 4, where I can pull up both of those guys.
I know that, Tyler, you are a huge fan of both of these guys.
I have soured a bit on Wyatt Kaiser as of late.
Yeah.
Now, Gavin Hayes is having a fantastic season. He really is. Gavin Hayes is having an absolutely fantastic season for the Flint Firebirds. On a not very good team, but he's still producing. And that's still admirable. Regardless. Wyatt Kaiser, I think that the thoughts of him becoming a truly great offensive threat are kind of dead.
Yeah,
I
the
think
offense was
He's
probably
really
never
turning
gonna be
into more of a defensive defenseman.
Yeah.
And maybe I do have him too low in Tier 4. Maybe he is more of a Tier 3 guy. But I really think that there's a higher level of certainty in terms of NHL projectability there with guys like Samuel Savoie. And,
Yeah, that's fair.
and the ceiling's higher with Rinzel.
Oh yeah, I have Renzel in.
Yeah.
But yeah, just with Wyatt Kaiser, high-end skater, great gap control, good in transition. But as you mentioned, not much offensive upside, and he's kind of a smaller defenseman. And then Gavin Hayes, he's been great this year in terms of production. Great shot, decent passer, decent puck handler. The main question with him is his skating, to be completely honest. But I think for a third-round pick, I think it was a pretty good pick. And I think he has some offensive upside. So
he was the 6th player that we drafted. Samuel Savoie was the 7th player that we drafted. That's crazy. We haven't even mentioned the 4th yet. So we got Gavin Hayes and Wyatt Kaiser. Let's now head into a former first-round pick who probably shouldn't have been, but still is still probably gonna be fine, I guess. Nolan Allen. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean,
He's fine.
He's there.
Should he have been a first round pick? Absolutely not.
No.
Would you be cool with him being like a second or third round pick? Probably.
yeah,
Is he the kind of guy who drafted first? No.
no.
Is he going to be bad? No. Is he going to be amazing? No. Will he make the NHL? Probably. I don't know what else there really is to say. He hits people hard, and I think that there is more offensive upside than he gets credit for, but I also have issues with just this was at a weird time in the Blackhawks organization in terms of their decision making as well.
Yeah.
This
Plus
was,
the
I mean,
Stan
I mean,
Bowman.
yeah, I mean, like, you know, Stan Bowman, great GM between October 2020 and April 2021, and then wham, that Seth Jones trade, and then Nolan Allen draft pick, and then day charting.
I remember when the Hawks drafted him. I was so when I filmed my video, I was like very disappointed in that video.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. And we have a collection of more players in Tier 4. And I actually want to start here with Wally. So I've got, let's actually go here to the next player. So the next player I have in Tier 4 is actually Philip Bruce. Philip Bruce has played very well in the AHL this season. He's really, I think that he's very impressive. In terms of the NHL, I think he's not necessarily as ready. It is kind of crazy, though, to think, like, if you look across the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Philip Bruce is the 8th defenseman that we've named on our prospect pyramid up to this point.
Roos did in tonight's game in the IceHogs did go to the locker room twice, and I don't believe he came back the second time he left.
So there could be a potential injury there with Bruce now.
I think so.
I didn't even notice that. Let me check.
I mean,
Good
do
thing they're on
we expect Rockford to report anything?
No.
I mean, there's
During
a
the
slight
broadcast,
chance.
They even mentioned it a couple of times.
But got Philip Bruce playing well in the AHL. The next guy, another guy playing well in the AHL, Cole Gutman.
Yeah, he's been. I mean,
This guy was undrafted.
No, he was drafted.
Oh, right. He was just not drafted by us.
Yeah, he was a college free agent. He left Tampa, basically. Well, he didn't leave Tampa, but they had his rights. Then he became a free agent. And then he signed with us. I was a little worried at the beginning of the year. I felt like he was going to be more of like a, what would you say, quadruple A type of player. But he's been really good in the AHL this year. And for him still only being 23, I think there's still some untapped potential there. And his play style, too, I feel like it would project pretty well to the NHL. There's obviously still concerns with his frame. He's only 5'9", but he's tenacious and he's a good skater too. So
yeah. And John, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from Cole Gutman so far?
Again, we've talked a lot about praises of Gutman. He scored the shootout winner a couple of nights ago, and then I think he fed the pass to win the game tonight. So he's playing well. He's producing offensively. Nothing but praise for Cole Gutman.
There's
He's
a
been
chance
great this
we could
season.
see Gutman in the Blackhawks roster after the trade deadline when
And that would be fantastic.
players have to be called up.
Oh, if there's guys who get moved, I have very little doubt in my mind that Cole Gutman gets NHL games. All right, then we're going to move on to the next guy. This guy was a player who was just drafted this year, but has not necessarily performed up to the expectations, especially comparatively to some of the other guys in similar situations. Paul Lewinsky. It's a little bit of a weird one because this guy was very similarly projected in comparison to a guy like Samuel Savoy. However, it appears that a guy like Savoy has really overtaken him in terms of performance levels and in terms of, perception for the future of the franchise because of how well he's played this year. Even a guy like Gavin Hayes, who I have ranked over Lewinsky.
I don't think it's all Lewinsky's fault. Kingston kind of sold their whole team at the deadline, but he hasn't necessarily been great this year. I still like the tools. He's, fantastic skater, and he works very hard. I think he still projects pretty well, but you'd probably like to see more production than what he has, which is 33 points in 42 games and only 8 goals. Even though he has 5 points in his last 3 games, which is nice to see, but he's underperformed statistically this year for sure.
Yeah. I want to highlight a couple more of these guys right here. So the next group we have here, we have 2 Rockford guys, Al Regula and Michael Tepley.
Okay.
I also want to highlight the other tier 4 Rockford players, which is Jakob Galvis. So we have 3 more Rockford players in tier 4, Michael Tepley, Al Regula, and Jakob Galvis. And I want to ask John, what are your thoughts on all 3 of these guys? And save Glaze for last.
All right. Wait, save Glaze for last?
Yes.
Okay, so Regula has been okay this year. Nothing special, but nothing amazing or nothing terrible in my opinion. He's good. He's good on defense. He throws the ball on the body a little bit, which sometimes gets him in trouble with the referees. But we will excuse him for that. Tepley has been kind of disappointing this year. I thought he was really good last year, and this year he hasn't been that good. And he was on that line with Reichel and Alti last year, and since Alti left this year for Russia, I think he hasn't been playing with Reichel that much. Tepley didn't even play tonight. He played No, he didn't even play yesterday either.
Played on the 28th.
Yeah. So there's something they're not telling us.
So they probably scratched him because
he might be a healthy scratch.
He might be a healthy
he's
scratch.
been injured, and the IceHogs aren't reporting it.
I would
see it too.
I would lean more towards healthy scratch because while he hasn't played that well this year, and it's been kind of disappointing. I expected more out of Tepley. He's probably my biggest disappointment this year for the IceHogs.
Yeah. 12 points in 33 games. I almost think it's generous for me to have him in tier 4 now that I'm looking at it.
And that's why I was and that's why I was surprised that you had Galvis lower than Tepley, because I think Galvis should be higher than Tepley.
Yeah,
I would argue that
I didn't adjust this list in the last couple weeks, so I didn't adjust the order. So
right.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, yeah, I would definitely rank Galvis over Tepley.
I would even argue that Galvis should be above Regula. But that's just me, because I really like Galvis's game. He scored tonight. Again, I think he projects more as a two-way guy. He doesn't have the greatest offensive output in the world, but he gets the job done when it's needed. I think he had an assist.
We're talking about Galvis.
Yeah.
He had a goal.
He had an assist on Bobby Lynch's game-winning goal.
Nice.
So 2-point night by Galvis, or Glaves, as we like to call him. But he's been much like Regula. He's played okay this year. He's not as big as Regula, obviously. He's on the shorter end. He's a short king.
Let's go. Oh wait, he's listed at 185 now. Okay, well he was.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was reports that he's trying to become more of a defensive.
Yeah, he was listed at 160 for the longest time. I was like, how is he playing in the AHL at 160 and 5'11"?
What'd you say, Tyler?
He's trying to become more of a defensive defenseman from recent reports.
And that makes sense.
It's weird though because he's been their best offensive defenseman in terms of points this year.
Really, he's not even above.
outside of Phillips.
No, he's been
okay.
in terms of production.
Points per game.
Points per game. Well,
Yeah.
not sure.
So really, he's got more points than Phillips. I didn't know that.
He does, but that's not including points per game.
Just don't play him with Adam Clendenning, please.
Yeah, don't play anyone with Adam Clendenning.
Yeah. And then lastly on that is Aiden Thompson, who is playing this year at the University of Denver. Bit of an older third-round pick. Was a little bit concerned when we, in terms of like how good that draft pick really was when we made the selection. It's looking pretty good right now. I know that he was an older player when he was drafted, but this actually looks like a pretty good selection. I mean, this guy was so far is a plus 11 in 20 games and 19 points in 20 games. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and he kind of fits like a somewhat similar mold to Paul Lewinsky. Maybe not as fast, but still a really good skater. Tenacious, and he has some skill. I mean, as you said, he's almost point per game in college this year, playing in a pretty tough conference too in the NCHC. So,
Yeah. And we're gonna get into the last three players here in this tier 4, and then after now that I have these in here, we have Ilya Safonov, Ryder Rulston, and unfortunately Rulston is out for the rest of the season. And then we have Landon Slaggert. So we have the Notre Dame duo right here. Slaggert's been playing a lot better as of late, but his start to the year was really bad.
I kind of forgot Slacker existed until you just brought him up on the tier list.
he's also dealt with injuries, but yeah, you're right. He has not been great this year.
It is trending up for him. 5 points in 8 games. I think that the scoring is not there. Obviously, he's got 9 points so far this season. That's over the course of 28 games, which looks really bad. I do think that there is an element of, well, last year he was playing with his brother, and the year before that he was playing with his brother and Alex Steves. So the talent around him isn't as quality as it was before. He's more of a complementary type player. And the other thing is that he is playing on the power play. It's just that he is like exclusively used as a net front presence, so he doesn't actually touch the puck in those moments. But he is impacting the power play. Do I think that he's as good as I used to think that he is? No. No, it's soured a bit on him just because he hasn't produced like I would have hoped, considering the consecutive seasons in the NCAA. But I still think there's a player there, and I still think there is a guy who could provide a quality bottom 6 role. And with Ryder Rulston, I'm a fan of his because he looks like he scored a lot so far this year in Notre Dame. And then Ilya Stefanov has also scored a lot this year just in the KHL.
And as a captain.
He is a captain for Akbars Kazan, which is very impressive.
I think he's 21. Yeah, he's still 21.
Yeah, he is only 21.
Wait, he's a captain at 21? All right.
Yeah.
He's split between captain and alternate captain this year.
Yeah.
That's good still though. He's getting a letter on his jersey, so that's good.
And he has 28 points in 55 games. Kind of playing, I would say, more of a second line role. But he's been good. He's been good this year.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to ask is, Wally, are there any changes that we haven't already mentioned that you have for your tier 4?
So I have Drew Comesso in tier 4. I'm trying to see if anyone else. I think everything else we have in the same tier, I believe.
Yeah, you said that Comesso and Kaiser out.
No, I have
Is
Kaiser.
out.
Yeah, Kaiser is in tier 3 for me. Tier
Yeah.
4, I have Comesso and Savoie.
So blah.
Yeah,
And then nothing else. Okay.
I think.
And then we're going to run through tier 5 rather much quicker, and tier 6 much quicker than we did the other ones. So tier 5, I'm going to just pull up the entire thing. And tier 5, pull up the entire thing right here so we can see all of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys, it looks like. 13 guys that are listed here in tier 5 for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Arthur Kayuma should be higher, in my opinion.
No. No. This guy has basically the exact same scoring rate as Ilya Stefanov, and Ilya Stefanov is like 4 years younger.
Does the Blackhawks even have his rights anymore to even sign him?
I don't think they do after they do still have his rights, but I don't think it's much longer.
Kayumov's?
Been a long time.
They hold on to it's indefinite unless he.
Oh yeah, it's uncap friendly, but EP is sometimes different. But EP still has him technically listed as a Blackhawks prospect, and if EP's saying it, then I'm trusting it. So I think that the Blackhawks still have his rights.
Oh, one more thing, Tyler. I actually have Ryder Rolston in tier 5.
That okay. Yeah, I understand that. I just think there is some really quality skating skill there. And
No, I like his skating.
he outproduced Slaggert this year, and it felt weird to have him under Slaggert.
That's fair.
Considering they're the same age, too.
Yeah.
So in tier 5, we're going to run through it quickly. Dominic James, a bit of an older draft pick that the Hawks made in the 6th round this year, playing at Minnesota Duluth with Wyatt Kaiser. Producing quite well, actually. Not fantastically, but producing quite well. 18 points in 26 games. Good shot in some of the time that I was able to watch him play. Nils Juntorp was playing in the USHL right now.
For Dubuque.
Playing the USHL with the Dubuque.
Not been great.
Is it necessarily the most impressive thing at all? He's put up 28 points in 34 games. Not great, but there is still, I think it's still a decent player that we're going to see soon at the next level. And that next level is kind of unknown at the moment. We just know he's in the USHL right now.
I think he either goes back to Sweden or goes to college. I think those are kind of.
Yeah, there's no commitment currently listed for him on Elite Prospects, so we will see where he ends up next year. Artur Kaimov, as we already mentioned, much older guy, drafted the same year as Alex DeBrincat, and this is his last year to be old enough. This is the last year he's going to be age eligible for a prospect pyramid anyways, and I think he's just a KHL Middle 6 guy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can admit that.
Mm-hmm. Guys who might also, in terms of guys who might also be off the pyramid next year, we've got Jake Wise, who might be off the pyramid next year because his rights expire at the end of the season. Slava Demon's rights expire at the end of the season as well, as do Antti Saarlo's. I would be surprised if any of these guys get contracts, to be honest.
I think Scott Powers mentioned in Athletic the other day that Jake Wise, I think he said he wouldn't be surprised if he got at least an AHL contract.
I think he could get a Rockford deal.
I think the other two are probably gone, and I've been I've been a big fan of Saarlo's. So
Sorella, I think, is just going to be career European Hockey League player.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being really excited when we drafted Wise, and he's kind of turned into nothing. Maybe I was.
He had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
He had a lot of injuries.
Maybe I was.
He's very talented.
Maybe I was. What's the word? Foolish for being excited for him, but I remember being.
I mean,
I remember wasn't this guy a 10-year-old prodigy?
Yeah, he was like at one point like maybe 2 years before his draft year projected to go top 10 at one
Oh
point.
Yeah.
wow, okay.
But
So
then the
maybe I
injuries
was
came in.
okay in thinking that he was going to be good until he got injured
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah,
That sucks for him though.
And Slava Demon has played well for Merrimack this year, but
not getting signed.
I don't think he's going. I don't think we're going to sign him. I just
No.
don't. I really don't. I mean, there's so many defensemen. So many defensemen.
He's just not good enough. Sorry, Slava.
No,
But
honestly, unfortunately, no. Now, some guys who we do have on contracts, Jalen Lipin, Josiah Slavin, both played. Slavin has been kind of up and down so far in terms of
I can
his
agree with that.
performance.
he has 9 games in 40 games, or 9 points in 40 games, or something like that.
Yeah, it's not
Usually third one.
9 points in 45 games right now in the AHL, which is not what I expected. I think that at this point we kind of jumped the gun a little bit in saying Josiah Slavin is going to be this fantastic fourth liner.
I mean, he had a really good season last year, and he's up there with Tepley and my biggest disappointments this year for Rockford.
Yeah.
I don't have his numbers offhand, but I remember him having a pretty good season last year.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Slavin, what he did in the shootout this weekend.
Yeah. Lipin has gotten off to a really hot start since coming back from this injury. Guys put up 19 points in 18 games for Tri-City Americans so far.
And he had,
Very impressive.
3 straight games of game-winning goals for him.
Oh my, really?
Not these past 3 games, but last weekend.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of the other guys that we want to mention, let's just go to the big guys, okay? We have three just giants on this list who are basically only on here because of their size over anything. And that is Riku Tohila, Tage Harding, and Louis Crevier. Crevier's played in the AHL this year, and from all accounts, he's been a capable third-pairing AHL defenseman who is very big.
Correct. He's a capable third-pairing defenseman that I like on the Rockford IceHogs.
Now, for me, I think that Tage Harding's career path could be similar to, or I think that what could happen with Tage Harding is something that happened to 3 names that I'm going to mention of 3 very different trajectories. Dmitry Osipov, Dustin Byfuglien, and what's the third guy? Curtis McDermott. I think this guy could play wing. I think that he could play wing. I think that I've seen him sometimes at Providence playing wing on their power play, being kind of more of a power forward type guy in the power play as opposed to a defenseman. I know he's huge. I don't really know where he fits into the franchise. I don't know if anyone knows where he fits into the franchise. It was a weird 3rd-round pick.
Colton Parayko.
No. Just no. No.
Physically, that's probably what the Blackhawks were hoping for. But I don't think that's gonna
That's what
happen.
they were hoping for. But
Oh boy.
I don't know what happened. And then Riku Tohila was a 7th-round pick who is fine.
He's really cooled off as of late.
He's really cooled off. He played a little bit in the Mestis, which is fine.
He's
He was
good there.
good there, but his time in the league, in the under-20 league, yeah, not the best.
No.
Not as good as we would have hoped, or not as good as he was to start the year. So I think that right now it's maybe even a little generous to say a tier 5 for him. But there are some guys in here who might not be in the organization next year. So we'll see with some of those guys, though. Victor Kronborg. Victor Kronborg is struggling right now. Was sent down to the J20 National. I don't know what else to say other than that. The guy's playing under 20 hockey, and he spent over almost 100 games in the SHL. And then Dominic Bossie's having a fantastic season right now for St. Cloud State after having a couple of struggle seasons for Colorado College as a goalie. And I'm starting to slowly but surely think there's more to Dominic Bossie than I ever thought before because of that. And then in Tier 6, we have some guys down here. Parker Fu is playing well in the KHL. Liam Gorman is a guy who we traded the 6th-round pick for, who's playing well for Princeton, but it's Princeton, and he's really old. Mike Hardman, I can't really see anything beyond an AHL.
Unbelievable.
Let's be honest, I keep forgetting Hardman's even part of the
How
organization.
dare you, Nick and Tyler? You are.
And then we'll move on to the next guy. Cameron Hillis is playing in the ECHL right now. Cooper Zek is playing in the ECHL right now. I had Jackson Stauber down here at the time when this list was made. Maybe I'd put him in Tier 5 right now, considering everything, just because of how he's played to start his NHL career. But he still hasn't played great in AHL over the course of the entire season. So, you know what? We can say Jackson Stauber in Tier 5. That's fine. Connor Kelly is a serviceable NCAA defenseman who I really can't see being anything more than that. Dylan Wells is an ECHL goalie. And then Michael Krudel is playing in the 2nd division of Czech Republic.
What about
have
Cooper
Stauber and I have Stauber and Hardman in Tier 5, by the way.
I
Good
can't
job,
put Hardman
Wally.
in Tier 5.
Well,
Good job, Wally.
I
Good
mean,
job, Wally.
I think Hardman could be a 13th forward.
Thank you, Wally.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, he's done it before. I'm just saying. I don't think. Ideally, you probably
He
want.
didn't do it good.
He was the worst player, and I'm not one to get into analytics. He was the worst player in the NHL when he was in the NHL, analytically.
Awful.
Man, you guys are haters.
So
Jesus.
this is the entirety of the Chicago Blackhawks prospect pyramid that we have. You've got guys like Korchinski, Nazer, Reichel up top. Those are foundational pieces, along with a lot of other great players that we have. And it's worth mentioning. I want to pull this up because considering it's like, hey, there's not like, hey, we have some guys, but there's a lot that aren't going to be there. Like this right here. That is 2 firsts and 2 seconds in the next 2 years. That's also 2 thirds. Each of the next 2 years, we have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. We have 2 fifths in 2024. And then we have a 4th, 5th, and 7th in 2023, and then it's also a 6th and a 7th in 2024. That is
A lot.
9 picks in 2023, right now before any trades, which we expect some big names get moved out for trade deadline, as well as 10 picks in 2024, again, before any players are moved out during trade deadline. In terms of guys who could be at the World Juniors next year to watch out for in this list. Frank Nazer for Team USA. Gavin Hayes for Team USA. Sam Renzel for Team USA. And then in terms of guys for Canada, you could see Paul Lewinsky, Samuel Savoie, and or Kevin Korchinski for Team Canada. Nobody else, I think, could make a team elsewhere because we just don't have a ton of international prospects beyond that as well. Wally, do we have any changes?
No, I'm good.
He said Stauber and Harden in Tier 5, and that's good. So,
Yeah, those were the only 2.
and with that is going to wrap up this segment on the Hawkey PuckCast. We are going to now transition into the Rockford report. So, John, the Rockford IceHogs played 3 games this week?
3 games this week.
Yes.
And they won all 3, which is a weird sight to see after what happened the last 7 games.
Oh, yes. Winning is back. And
Winning is
tell
back.
us all about it. Tell us all about that very first game of the week.
All right, so this is a 3-2 win in the shootout versus the Moose. The Rockford IceHogs won a ice hockey game played in the year 2023. So for the second straight game, the IceHogs score the game's first goal, second time in the last 11. That is not a pretty sight, but at least we're starting to score the first goal, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because that means we're leading.
Winning games. Never a bad problem. Never a bad thing.
Soderboom played well. Throughout the game, he made some big stops in OT, and he didn't let anything pass him in the shootout as usual because he's really good at the shootout and he says he likes it.
Mhm.
In an interview that was done yesterday, the post-game press conference, he said he likes doing the shootouts. Gutman with the game's first goal. Reichel with a nifty little pass in the left circle. Yeah, left circle between two mooses. And then Gutman does the rest. He makes a defender miss. He turns him inside out. And then he shoots a laser of a shot past Holm. I don't think there's anything that Holm could have done. I don't think he even saw it because he didn't react until after the goal was in the net. Or the puck was in the net. Sorry, excuse me. The Hogs would unfortunately surrender the next two goals for the Moose. Tor Egerson gets a goal near the goal line on a Moose power play. You would like to see Soderboom save that puck, but at the same time, he was wide open on the goal line. And so that's not good coverage by the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Hanola gets this last goal for the Moose in the what period was it? In the second period. You would like this was totally on Soderboom. He saw the puck the whole way. Hanola was in the slot, and there was no one screening him, so you would like Soderboom to save that shot. Tyler's favorite ice hog, Mike Hardman, thinks it's spring training for the MLB season with a baseball bat goal to tie the game.
What, pitchers and catchers report in like 2 or 3 weeks?
Okay, well, close enough, Tyler. Just stay with me here. Thank you.
Sorry.
So we go. Nothing really happens of note in the third. Phillips stops a breakaway attempt in the OT with good hustle. He pokes the puck away. I think the breakaway was, or the Moose that was trying to get on the breakaway was Christian Reichel, Lucas Reichel's brother.
Cousin.
My bad.
Yes, cousin.
My bad. Soderboom made a great save. It was a cross-crease pass by the Moose, and Soderboom makes a sprawling glove save to absolutely rob Christian Reichel, who, as I mentioned earlier, was on the breakaway. So, question here. Why is Mike Hardman the first shooter in the shootout attempt?
That's the weirdest decision ever.
It should not be. He should not be in a shootout because he's not one.
Doesn't he have stone hands?
Kind of, yeah. He tries to go low blocker on Holm, but he denies him, obviously, because it's Mike Hardman
taking a shootout shot.
And then I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Limgos. He gets the first shootout attempt for the Moose. He makes a forehand backhand moves, and then he whiffs on a shot attempt. So Soderboom literally had to do nothing. He just stood there. Reichel gets the second hog to shoot, and as usual, he goes 5-hole after making a bunch of forehand backhand moves. It's really like reminiscent of like what Kane does, just like slower.
If he's going 5-hole all the time, that's more Jonathan Tays.
Yeah,
well, I mean with like the quick little moves.
So he's got the so what you're saying is that he's got the dangles of Kane and the 5-hole of Taze.
Sure, we can call it that. That's a great way.
Well, that's two of the
Describe
most
it.
successful shootout scorers of all time, so I'll take it.
So obviously, Lucas Reichel scores as usual. Harkins is the next shooter for Manitoba, and he's denied by Arvid after trying to go low glove. It seems like they were all trying to go glove side on Soderblom, and he mentioned that in his post game press conference, and he doesn't know why, but it doesn't matter because he saved them all. And then Gutman has a chance to win the game, and he does. He fakes a shot in the slot, then Holm bites pretty badly, and then Gutman goes backhand, and he roofs it to end the game.
So that makes me think. Every game ended the same way this week.
Correct.
And
It was all 3-2.
3-2 and then 3-2.
3-2.
And
In
Arvid
overtime.
did not allow a shootout goal in any of the shootouts.
No, he did not. And he's usually pretty good on the shootouts. This
Yeah.
goes back to last year. He's
Isn't like Robin Leonard?
sure.
Oh, he's no Robin Leonard.
No, he's no Robin Leonard.
Nobody's Robin Leonard.
No, Robin Leonard was
Nobody's
great-
Robin Leonard in many aspects.
Robin Leonard's a great goalie, but he was never good in the shootout.
No.
He doesn't
First-
like to gamble.
Oh, Tyler. Okay,
Stinks.
first win since January 13th. That's not good. And then this ends a 7-game losing streak. So this is not going to make everyone happy. The Hogs went 0 for 6 on the power play.
Yeah,
Yay.
the Hogs looked terrible on the power play. I watched the entire game from the beginning. It was rough.
It was so bad that the Moose had more power play goals on our power play than we did because they had a shorty.
Yay, that sounds like fun.
It's not fun. I think the Honoa goal was the shorthanded goal.
The IceHogs are officially 27th on the power play in the AHL.
Yikes.
Last time I checked, we were 15. That's not good.
No, it's not.
The silver lining is the PK was just okay. We were 2 for 3.
Mm.
That's a silver lining,
It's kind of,
I guess, compared to the power play.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for once, the IceHogs decide to outchance the opponent in the scoring areas. I know it's a shocking concept, but we actually decided to do it. It wasn't even close based on the shot charts.
You have shot charts?
I do have shot charts actually.
Like where, like locations, or are you talking about actual shots?
Locations. I have locations of every shot in every AHL game.
Methinks you should give those to me.
They're found on the official AHL website.
Wait, what?
Wait!
Wait,
Wait!
you're
lying.
No, I'm not lying. I have shot charts of every single AHL game.
Like shot charts, like where the location of the shots are.
Do they have on?
Can I share my screen so I can like prove it to you guys? Or
They do.
Nani?
What? They do have shot charts.
how do you not know this?
They have shot charts. They don't tell you about time on ice.
All right, so now it's Iowa, where we won again 3-2 in the shootout, which this shootout was a lot more fun in my opinion. So like I mentioned earlier, second straight shootout for Rockford. This is actually the first win we've had against Iowa Wild in extra time. We're 1 for 5, which is terrible.
Wait, how many times have you played Iowa this year?
8.
Yeah, 8 times.
I will never understand the AHL schedule.
I think it was 8. Yeah, I think at this time,
Yeah,
I think it was 8.
Okay. I don't care. Look, we can discuss however the IceHogs did. I should say for 1 second, I will never understand the AHL's scheduling patterns. They don't make any sense.
So at the time of this game,
at
it was
all,
7.
and your divisions suck too.
Okay, Tyler, calm down. At
There's 10
the
teams
time
in the division.
at the time of this game, it was 7 times. So we've gone to overtime, or we've gone to extra time 5 times, and this was or 6 times, including this one. And this is our first time we won in extras. Not good. And I was at one of those losses. That was not fun.
Yeah, I was too. The teddy bear toss.
The Hogs give up the first goal of the game. It's just old tradition at this point. Swaney, I think that's how you say his name, Tyler's favorite AHL player.
It was a
Had 2
bad goal
goals.
against on Arvid.
Yeah, it was a bad
Don't
goal.
pin that on me. Don't pin that evil on me, bud.
To describe this first goal that was given up by Arvid, Swaney tried to pass it to Patan, who Tyler didn't even know was playing hockey. And Patan missed the pass, but then it went 5-0 on Arvid.
It was
I don't
really
know if,
bad.
Oh, yikes.
It was really bad. I don't know if Arvid, to give him a teeny tiny bit of the benefit of the doubt, I don't think he was expecting the pass to be completely missed by Patan. But at the same time, he has to save that shot. It was the first shot on goal, because it wasn't even a shot; it was a pass.
Yeah.
Lukas Reichel scores ties the game up on a 2-on-1. It was a laser beam. Of a shot. What's it? McIntyre. Yeah, McIntyre couldn't. I don't even think McIntyre saw the shot, even though there was no screen in front. Nothing too fantastic in the overtime. It was just kind of meh. Yeah, back and forth.
Mhm.
Not amazing chances, but there's I think both teams got 4 shots each. Shootout again. Slavin, as I mentioned earlier, tried to do the Forsberg shootout move. He kind of failed, but that's okay. He tried.
He
So A for
massively
effort.
whipped on it.
So A for effort in my book. Walker gets denied by Soderblom. He tried to go high glove again. I don't know why they keep on trying to go glove. It doesn't work. So this is a time when Reichel does not score a power play goal. He tried to do the same thing, and he got shut down. And then Nick Patan was the next shooter. He didn't have that good of attempt either. He tried to go glove, and he failed. Then Gutman tries to score, or tries to be the hero again. He misses, or he does. It wasn't even that bad of a shootout attempt. Actually, McIntyre just makes a good save. It was actually it was a really good attempt actually by Gutman. Swaney misses high on his shootout attempt. I know that's Tyler's favorite player. And then Phillip.
He's so kind. He's so respectful to young Blackhawks players.
Phillip, with a great shootout attempt, he goes back. He does a backhand move and then roofs it. McIntyre tries to do the flying poke check, which was a valiant effort, but he completely missed. And then Rossi, he missed the net wide. It wasn't even a shootout attempt. It was more like, here, you can try, and you didn't even do anything. Never mind.
When watching the broadcast, they kept calling Rossi Rusi in the 2 games. I don't understand.
Phillip Ross.
What'd you say, Wally? What was your comment?
Oh, I just said that Lukas Reichel's better.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's 100% valid.
Totally.
100%.
Hogs were 0 for 2 on the power play. That's not terrible, but considering that we're not good on the power play, we just went 0 for 6 the night before. It kind of gets magnified. So you would like to see them do something, but they don't. unfortunately. The silver lining is the PK was 3 for 3.
All right. And then this last game against Iowa, the next night, Soderblom started again, though.
Yes, he did, which was
He
a
started back that night.
good move
Sixth
in
straight
my
start.
opinion. So this was military appreciation night, and we gave out these wonderful blankets.
That's cool.
I don't even know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it. We just can only see the top of it.
It has the IceHog logo.
That's cool. That is very cool.
So we gave those out tonight to everyone, or to everyone who showed up. I think it was like the first 1,000 fans or something like that. Samuel, we talked about Samuel earlier, the 6-year-old cancer survivor. He showed up today. He got to be on the bench for warm-ups. Samuel's a great kid, as I mentioned before, so it was good to see him again. Reichel. So let's talk about Reichel and where he is in the lineup. And I know we all love where he's in the lineup. He's starting at center again.
Frickin' Davidson.
Well, it's not even his call,
Terrible.
though. It's Sorensen's call, though.
It's Kyle Davidson because the Blackhawks own the IceHogs, and they could tell them.
He's not controlling the coach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I disagree. I agree with Tyler.
Has
I agree with
control
Tyler.
of where he
Tyler
wants
said.
his players to be developed.
He can ask and like say that's where he wants, but it's ultimately up to the coach when it comes to
I
game
agree.
time.
Yeah, he's not telling Luke Burson. He's not telling Luke Burson what to do. He's sure as shit not telling Aaron Sorensen what to do.
I agree. So blame under Sorensen. I will not blame Kyle Davidson personally, but that's just me.
I am because Reichel's not a centerman.
Soderblom, another good game. This is good to see because he's feeling confident. I.e., he's given up only 2 goals in his last 3 games. So that's good. The refs were terrible. I do not like. The refs were awful. This game should not have gone to overtime. This game should have been won in regulation. And let's talk about that goal. That should not have been allowed. So Beckman enters the zone clearly offsides. And then
That's fun.
And then 20 seconds later they score on a cross crease goal. They
So it was
reviewed
offside.
Huh?
It was offside.
It was clearly offside. They reviewed the goal and they still determined that it was onside. Now, fine if you don't call it in real time, but if you look at the video and you don't even call it, then I don't know. The fans were not happy though because it was basically sell it tonight, and they erupted. They were not. It was probably the loudest cheer I've ever heard in that BMO.
And it wasn't a cheer.
Oh, well, you know what I meant. It was the loudest roar.
It was a very loud jeer.
Swaney scores again he got the first goal of the game. The Beckman goal the Rossi. Oh no, the Walker goal was the second goal of the game, but Swaney scored the first goal. We won't talk about Swaney anymore. We've talked about him too much. Glaves gets the first goal for the IceHogs. Wally's favorite defenseman.
Short-handed.
It was short-handed, yes.
I think Philip Bruce also got an assist on that as well. My other favorite defensive prospect.
Yes, and Philip got the primary assist. And it was a great pass.
Yeah, he did. It was a really good pass by Philip. Cini ties the game up with a power play goal. It was another. He tipped it in like he did for the goal, like the goal in I think it was Manitoba. I think it was that game. It was a shot by Clendenning, so we scored a power play goal finally. Yay!
It was Clendenning, boo.
You should be rooting for Wally. You should be rooting for success.
Okay, but John said he shot it, so I thought he scored it. But
It was Brett City gets the goal.
okay, that's fine then. We're good.
And David Gus gets the point.
Yeah, he didn't get a point on that goal. Yes. The Hogs are headed to extras again for the third straight game. Both goals were great in the overtime. Overtime was fun tonight. So the Hogs had a chance in the O-zone. It gets saved by McIntyre. The Wild streak down the ice, and then they get a chance, and Soderboom absolutely robs Rossi. He made a sprawling save, like the one in against Manitoba. I thought it went in, but clearly did not, because a few moments later, Bobby Lynch in the slot buries the game-winning goal on a one-timer from a feed from Gutman, and you love to see it because you do not expect Bobby Lynch to score a big goal, which was a big goal.
That's the end of a very productive 3-game winning streak to end the IceHogs' first half of the season for the All Star break. I believe we are all in consensus that the player of the week for the IceHogs is Arvid Soderblom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back, buddy.
A couple quick notes about our other notes about this game. 1 for 6 on the power play, 3 for 4 on the PK, with a shorthanded goal. The Hogs jumped to 4th in the central standings, 1 point behind the Wild. As I mentioned earlier, the Hogs extend their winning streak to 3 games. Going into the All Star break, we're sending Reigel, Cini, and Gust.
Nice. All right, and with that, we are going to head into a very rapid fire weekly Blackhawks predictions. So this week, the Chicago Blackhawks have 3 games, and these 3 games are going to be against the Anaheim Ducks at home, the Arizona Coyotes at home, and then the Winnipeg Jets late Saturday night on the road. Looks like it'll be a Hockey Night in Canada game because we're playing this Canadian team on Saturday night, so that's how that works. Nick, I'm going to start with you. We got Anaheim, Arizona, Winnipeg. What do you think for all 3 of those games?
Well,
Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday.
I will be at the game on Tuesday versus the Ducks, and I expect this game to be very close because the Ducks are starting to play better hockey as of late, and the Hawks have been playing good hockey lately, and they're both coming off the long All-Star break. It could go to overtime, so both teams in a tank-off gets a point, but the Hawks end up...
That's what no one wants.
Yeah. So the Hawks end up with the 2 points in that game where they win it maybe 3-2. The Arizona game, another tank off between the Blackhawks and Coyotes. It's probably going to be one of those weird games where you see either high scoring or 0 scoring at all for tanking between 2 teams. And give it to the Coyotes in this game where they win it 4-2. And then the Jets will just end the season series off by beating the Blackhawks by a score of 5-3.
All right. So you got, is that a total of 3 points?
2.
2 points. No over. I thought you had the Arizona game going overtime, actually.
Nope.
Okay. Right. 4-2.
You almost got it, Tyler.
Wally.
Wait, no, it's
Nick, now you're okay. Wally.
Okay. I'm gonna say 3-1 win over the Ducks. Let's go 4-3 overtime loss against the Coyotes, and then 5-2 loss against the Jets.
All right. John.
So I'm gonna go 3-2 loss to the Ducks. I'll go 3-2 loss in overtime against the Coyotes. And I'll go a 4-2 loss to the Jets.
All right. And then for me, I kind of have this feeling this can be a week of all losses. I don't know what it is. I have this feeling that this is like the All Star game came at the wrong time for the Blackhawks. The right time if you are a sadist and a tank artist. I think that we get 0 points out of this week. I think that against Anaheim, it'll be like 3-1. Actually, no, John Gibson's not good enough. I'll say 5-4. Arizona, this is where I think it'll be 3-1. And then against Winnipeg, we're on the second half of a back-to-back. I think this game could be like a 6-1.
Yeah.
And with that, that is going to be it for this episode of the Hawkey PuckCast. Tune in next week where we're going to recap everything involving that last week of Blackhawks action, as well as everything involving the IceHogs and the AHL All Star Game that's coming up this weekend, and how much better it likely will be than the NHL All Star Weekend actually was, because the AHL knows how to market things to their lower, to their smaller demographic, but still more hardcore fan base, oddly enough. So thank you as always for joining me, Wally.
I'm tired.
I am too. Nick.
I'm about to pass out and go to bed.
And John.
I am tired ×3, and IceHogs are good again. Yay.
My name is Tyler. This has been the Hawkey PuckCast, and we will see y'all next time. Take care.